Coming up on this episode of Don't Panic, we've got the week's tech news, including the return of the Unlimited plan and what it might mean for your self-service. We also talk about Android Wear 2.0, Apple going wireless, and where the responsibility lies on the internet. It's a CAMS episode of Don't Panic, and it's going to start for you right now. This is Don't Panic, episode number 158, recorded February 13th, 2017. Terms and conditions. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Don't Panic, the technology podcast that sailed through its Senate confirmation hearings. I'm Sean Jennings, joined as always by the Secretary of Internet Nonsense, Colby Rabideau, and the Secretary of Technology Wonderfulness, Dan Miller. Gentlemen, I would nominate both of you to those positions.
Thanks. I'm not sure I'm qualified, but what does it matter?
With bipartisan
would our nominations
approval.
be... yeah, okay, that was going to be my question. Would it be hotly contested?
No, I think it'd be a no-brainer. I think you'd sail right through. What was it? The only one I've seen go through is the Veterans Affairs guy was voted in unanimously. It would be like that, but for you guys, because everyone loves Colby and Dan.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, me on the other hand, if I were nominated for those positions, I'm wildly unqualified, so I'd also get approved, but only by my party.
The Betsy DeVos of
internet
technology.
I should have started that, and I'm the Betsy DeVos of this program, Sean Jennings. I'm just so wealthy, I bought my way onto the show. Yeah, there you go. Too soon. What's up, guys? What's going on?
I mean, that is sort of what we did. We just bought our way into a podcast. No one watches.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The bar to entry was so low that we just showed up and it happened.
Yeah.
Of course, we've gotten much better at it as time goes on, but I hope. Maybe that's not for me to judge.
At least a little, I would think.
I go back and watch those episodes, and I mean, we were always great. So I don't know what all the people out there talking about it. I don't know what they're saying, but I think we were always pretty awesome. I don't care about the haters out there. The two people who've commented on our YouTube page are like, I really like your show, but no one watches it. I don't know why you still do it. And more than one person has done that. Someone did that for debate last month. I'm like, why would you even write that? Thanks for the compliment, but why are you telling me to stop?
Why would you say both of those things? If you like the show, I don't know, tell a friend about it or something.
And that's what I literally was like, well, more people might watch it if you told people. That's what I responded with, and he didn't say anything, right. So screw that guy.
Yeah.
I insulted our one fan. Not very fun. I do want to quickly, before we jump into some banter and some nonsense here, I want to remind everybody, of course, we still have our phone number, 508-644-TECH. That's 508-644-TECH or 8324. The number's there on the screen if you're watching the video live on Facebook at facebook.com/don'tpanicshow. Call in, join the conversation. You'll be brought right in with the three of us. You can talk with us live here on the show with your thoughts and opinions. And I literally have just... you can't see it just outside of frame. I've just got mountains of tote bags I've got to give away. We got to give away the Don't Panic tote bag. So be the first person to call in with a substantive comment, as judged by me, and you could win a complimentary Don't Panic tote bag filled with change mode stickers. Okay, guys, I do still have a lot of those, and I have nothing to. I'm gonna just ship them to you guys.
We got to bring back change mode.
Yeah, man, it lives. I'm still. I think I just renewed the domain for another year.
Oh,
I don't know why. I still have it. Changemo.de.
It's a classic.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe we'll bring it back.
I don't even know where it goes to anymore because that website doesn't exist.
It seems to go to the Don't Panic page, but with no CSS, which is weird. Does Don't Panic just have no CSS now? Nope. No, it seems to have CSS.
It's loading for me fine.
I don't know why that happened.
So what's going on with you guys? What's new? What's the scoop? What's the good word? What's going down in Dan and Colby Town?
I don't know. There was a bunch of snow. It kept happening again and again. I got new boots today, real winter boots. I've been making do. Last winter, I made do all winter with normal sneaker height hiking boots, which was fine, but now the snow's deep, and the real problem is not the snow. It's the puddles at the beginning of the crosswalk that as the snow melts just get higher and higher, and it's at the point now where I can't walk through them without spilling, without some spillover, and just can't have that. So I got some real winter boots. I think that's all that's new with me though.
Yeah, I went to a sake bar yesterday.
How was that?
It was delicious. There was a guy in there with a parakeet on his shoulder.
That's weird.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. It's pretty New York.
I was about to
I don't
say,
think-
is it that uncommon?
Well, the only other thing I've seen like this was I was drinking a coffee in Soho once, and I saw this woman pushing a stroller, an older woman. But I didn't think anything of it, except for the fact that there was like a net over the front of it. So like most strollers are open to the air in the front. This one had a net over the front. So I was staring at it, and she was like walking across the street, coming closer and closer. I look in, there's a bird in there. She's taking her bird on a walk in this little tiny box. And then to make it even stranger, she was stopping at almost every store on this block, opening the door, not stepping in, saying something to a person inside, and then closing the door. And I had to imagine she was asking if she could bring her bird in with her.
Wow.
That's
And no one said yes.
Oh, well, if my suspicion is correct, then yeah, no one did. Or maybe
One
she just
time-
wanted to peek in without actually stepping in.
Mm-hmm. One time I was on the T, and on the Green Line trains in Boston, there's a spot that has like no seats that's reserved for like wheelchairs or strollers or, whatever. And this lady got on. I was standing there, and this lady got on with a stroller, and I just, like moved to a different spot. And then like 5 minutes later, I glanced over and noticed that in her stroller was not a baby. It was a dog. Like she had a dog stroller. And that was confusing to me. I'd never seen anything like that. Less surprising, I think, than the bird stroller, but only marginally so.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. People putting animals into strollers.
Yeah,
It's a new fad.
weird.
Sweeping the nation.
crazy.
Other than that, I don't think anything exciting happened.
Speaking of animals, Sean, I feel like you went to the zoo this weekend.
I don't know what gave you that idea that I went to the zoo. They had a sale on mugs, and you know me, I love my mugs. So I did. I went to the zoo, and I came up with two very interesting observations. I haven't been to a zoo in easily a decade. Very long time. I never go to... Who goes to the zoo? I never go to the zoo. Went to the Houston Zoo. If you're in Houston, I recommend it. It's a really good... I mean, I can't compare it to other zoos because I don't go to zoos. On its own, it was a good zoo.
Best zoo.
It was Houston, man. Everything's bigger in Texas, and it was a pretty average-sized zoo. But it had animals and whatnot. But I discovered two things about myself and about the animals when I was there, right? The first being is that I am horrifically terrible at spotting the animals in their enclosures. I felt like such a moron because it was like a game of hide and seek, and like the kids around me were doing a better job than I was. I'm like looking and I'm like, maybe they're not in here, and then the kid's like, look over there, and I look and they're like, there's a gorilla or like so. You know, like, I'm not talking like, yeah, I went to the reptile house and like the frog's designed to blend in. Okay, like the snake's kind of understandable, but literally they had a jaguar like with the spots on it, like. Easily visible, and I could not see it, and someone pointed it out, and I'm like, oh man, I felt like such an idiot. So, anytime you see those, if you see something, say something. It's like, no, I'm never going to see anything. I'm like the least observant person on the planet. So that's one. And number two, man and animal, right? We're very close. We're very similar. Genetically, evolution and all that, right? And animals are cooler than us in some ways, but man, we got thumbs and shit, so we're better in other ways. But I did find one area where man is superior, and this is just the weirdness that goes on in my brain, so you have to excuse me. Man got the best butt of all the animals. Like, I'm just saying, like, you see pictures of animals I don't see many animals in person, like exotic animals, right? You mostly see pictures of them, and no one really takes pictures of that. But when you're just looking at them, you're like, wow, those are really ugly. Like, there are just some horrifically ugly rear ends of animals out in the animal kingdom. And I don't know how mankind did it, but they just did such a good job of evolving just a nice little...
Maybe, some people say that like our opposable thumbs are our evolutionary advantage, but maybe that's what it is.
I'm
Dead ass.
I'm just that ass. That's the scientific term for it right there. Yes. Yep. So I don't know why
That's
I noticed
crazy.
that, but I was looking. I'm like, oh man, that looks gross. Oh, that's not right. Oh, and I'm like, man, but
You know,
yes.
I'm not sure I've ever noticed that before, but I think I will the next time I go to a zoo.
I was about to say, my recommendation to anyone out there: go to your local zoo and just stare, just for an uncomfortably long amount of time, at animals' assholes, and really, you'll just have a great time.
Uh,
Go ahead.
oh, I'm gonna change the subject.
Please do.
Oh, that's
Okay.
Please do.
Something exciting did happen to me this weekend, but it was on Friday, and it felt so long ago. So I went to see one of my a member of my favorite band play like a side gig, and it's one of those standing deals. So we're standing, and the show finally starts. It took forever. Like the opening act was late, and the gap between them was forever. He finally starts. And he plays one song, and then he plays a second song, and then he jumps off stage, walks right up to me, and we start dancing together.
Oh my god!
It was the weirdest thing. And somewhere I'm too self-conscious to look for this, but if someone was determined, they could probably find YouTube videos of this, because I was surrounded by people taking videos of this occurrence. Also, it was awkward because I had my laptop bag with me. It must have been a sight to behold. But that was definitely the most exciting thing that happened to me this weekend.
Was that the Instagram video there you posted?
It was from that concert.
From that concert,
Yeah.
that music sounded great.
Yeah, they were amazing.
I give Dan Miller credit. Dan Miller has good taste in things, specifically in this case, music.
And they just won their 3rd Grammy yesterday.
Whoa,
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Do people care about the Grammys?
The people seem to. There's something about Beyonce and Adele all over Twitter the past 2 days, and there's something about goddesses. I can't, like, reading the tweets, I have no idea what fucking happened. Like, there's Adele had to say something to Beyonce. I don't know why. There's all these pictures of Beyonce in a halo. I think Beyonce has actually ascended into godhood.
A deity?
Like it used to be a joke. It used to be something people would joke about, but yeah, now it's the new pantheon of American culture. Like Christians are minorities because the rest of the country is worshiping Beyonce.
Wow, that is deep. She is on the Mount Rushmore of popular culture.
Yeah, but it's not Mount Rushmore. I don't know what it is.
It's just Beyonce.
It's lemonade.
It is. Grammy loser Beyonce.
Lemonade, the Mount Rushmore of popular culture.
Wow, that is a
Did
mixed
Beyonce
metaphor.
not win a Grammy?
Yeah, Adele beat
Huh?
her. That's kind of how that started. Was
Oh.
for album of the year, or artist of the year, one of the two. Adele beat Beyonce, and Beyonce over the last couple years, she's lost 3 times in a row to Adele, Beck, and someone else really white.
Who is Beck?
Gotcha.
Is that like Becky?
Beck?
No,
You never heard of
the
Beck?
musician Beck.
I have literally. This is the first time I've heard.
He's been
of
around
Beck.
like for 20 years.
Yeah.
Never.
He
I
plays
heard that.
kind of like weird music.
What was his big
it's
one? Was
pretty
Loser,
alternative.
right? I'm a loser,
Yeah.
baby, so why don't you kill me? Remember that one?
No.
So I'm competitor.
I heard about Chance the Rapper for the first time
Chance the
yesterday
Rapper,
too.
Sure, the first
He's
artist.
a very uninventive stage name.
Although
pretty
apparently
literal.
there's someone called.
Chance, what do you do? Well, I'm a rapper. So, okay, what do you want to call yourself? Like, you could do Babylonia. You could, Beyonce. Just throw some ideas out. I'll just be Chance the Rapper.
So okay, now you've inspired me. What would Dan's musician name be? If he's so good at coming up with alternate, because we can't call him Dan the Rapper apparently. That's too easy. D-Pain? I don't know.
I think
Deep.
depends what kind of music I'm doing, right?
That's a good question.
That's
I don't
true.
think I wouldn't be very good at coming up with a rapper stage name.
Funky D.
And I
Funky
feel like
D!
most other
I love that. I love that.
I feel like that's pretty flexible too. Like you could play a lot of types of music with a name like Funky D.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, I think Colby found it.
Funky D.
Ton. On a roll.
I think Colby's would probably be the Cotton Experience.
Cotton Gin.
Cotton Gin, that's good.
It's a little racy.
Cole Bonsai.
It must have something to do with cotton. You're right.
I mean, that's the obvious choice.
Yeah, but I think in cases like this, obvious choice is usually the correct one.
Mm.
Like the sousaphone player in the Roots, his stage name is Tuba Gooding Jr.
That's pretty good.
That's awesome.
It's the obvious one, but it's the best one.
I will say oh man, what? Oh shoot, it was Never mind. Keep talking. I got to see if I can remember this.
Okay.
No, because I had the best musician name I had ever heard of in my life, and it's gonna bug the hell out of me that I'm not gonna remember who it was or where they're from. Damn. Anyway.
Cotton Eyed Colby.
Cotton Eyed Colby. He's probably gonna own Redneck's a royalty for using that, but sure, I like that. That's good.
Colby Cotton Eye.
Colby Cotton Eye.
What does that mean exactly? Like having a cotton eye?
I don't know.
It must be something since there was Cotton Eyed Joe, right? Like this isn't a one-time.
If we've learned anything in the past 6 months, Colby, is that things don't necessarily have to mean anything.
Wow. Would you, if you'd like to know?
I'm just searching for something to grasp onto in these.
Would you know that? Do you actually want to know the history?
Oh yeah.
Cotton Eye Joe, excluding the dance hit you know and love, is actually a traditional American country folk song, popular throughout the United States and Canada. Let's see. It's the origins of the song are unclear, though it predates the American Civil War. Let's see. They published a version in 1882, a folk song that went. Oh my God! It's written in that. Oh my God! I'm gonna. This is bad. It's written in that kind of like real bad Southern English, where all the words are like.
Geez.
All right, Cotton Eye Joe, what did make you sarve me so? For to take my girl away from me, and sire her plumb to Tennessee. In it been for Cotton Eye Joe, I'd been married long ago. That's just the first verse. I won't do any more. I'll save you from that.
That was plenty. Thank you.
Yes.
But it doesn't explain. I'm reading the Wikipedia article as well. It does not explain. Oh, wait, here we go. A list of the possible meanings of the term cotton-eyed have been proposed, including to be drunk on moonshine or to have been blinded by drinking wood alcohol, turning the eyes milky white. A black person with very light blue eyes, okay. Someone whose eyes were milky white from bacterial infections, from a disease such as syphilis, cataracts, or glaucoma. The contrast of dark skin tone around the white eyeballs and black. Okay, Jesus.
Yeah, this sounds perfect for a popular American music act.
Right.
Oh my God.
Naturally, it's racist. Cool.
Yeah, extremely.
I'm glad we got to the bottom of this.
I guess
we've gone too deep. We've
gone too deep. Back it up, guys.
Yeah.
Bring it back, roll it back, roll it back. All right.
Technology after the cotton gin.
That's right. That's what we're going to talk about now. We've got a whole set of news here to discuss, a whole bunch of stories. Before we get to that, I'll remind everybody, if you're watching us live, we appreciate it. Monday nights, roughly 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on Facebook at facebook.com/Don't Panic Show. And you can call in live, 508-644-TECH. That's 508-644-8324. Call in live or really at any time and record a voicemail. We may play it on the show. Guys, where in this lengthy rundown would you like to begin tonight? There are no wrong answers, only good answers.
Let's start with the story I was making fun of, NBA. The NBA.
NBA baller beats.
The first time, I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've ever referenced an ESPN story in the history of the program. But there's a good first time for everything. And the reason we're doing that is because NBA is partnering with Take-Two Interactive Software. You may know them as the people behind NBA 2K, the video games, to form a first-of-its-kind esports league. Now, we've talked on the show previously about esports and the sort of growth of that and where it's heading. What they're doing here is extremely different because it's being sponsored by the NBA. Tentatively set to begin play in 2018. Eventually, the league will feature 30 NBA 2K teams, each one owned by one of the real NBA franchises. So this is very connected to the NBA. The teams will each be comprised of 5 human players, as opposed to dog players, who will play out a 5-month season that mirrors the real NBA season. They'll have a regular season, then playoffs, then a championship matchup. Interestingly enough, those 5 players will draw salaries, will train, and will play for 5 months. This is a full-time job for the individuals playing on these esports teams. They will build a team within the game, will compete all season long, and there will, of course, be a winner at the end. The league, NBA, is in charge of staging events, selling tickets, creating merchandise, negotiating licensing rights, a big opportunity for them to make some money. And one additional note, real NBA players will not be representative as avatars in the game, so they will not be able to play as real players. They will make up fake players to play in the real NBA game. Guys, does this seem more or less legitimate to you than...
So this is only for this one game?
Only for NBA 2K, yes, correct.
Yeah. More or less legitimate than what?
Than some of the other, Major League Gaming, or is because it's so closely tied to the NBA and because they're salaried and because it's... is it more legit? I don't know.
So, I don't know if I'm the best person to answer this because I'm pretty deep. I'm on the deep end of the esports thing now. I'm sold. And to me, this is less legitimate because it's only, I don't know. So it's not any less. So apparently the way this works for a lot of games, like the League of Legends and the big ones, is the companies themselves are putting up the prize money. They're sort of bootstrapping the incentive for there to even be professional players. And then they get advertisers and the prize money grows and grows and there's entrance fees and whatever. But it starts from the company. So in that sense, this isn't any different. But part of the cool thing about esports, and it's just me, is, and I've always been fascinated by things like this, it's taking something that was not meant to be done a certain way and doing it that way anyways. Like taking a game that was never designed to be played competitively or to have teams or for people to spend years of their lives focusing on getting better at it, and then doing that, that's part of the fun for me. So these games that, I don't know, I go either way. It's cool that games are designed for this because that probably will make them more fair and more fun to watch, which is a big problem in some games. They're impossible to watch, and a big part of esports is watching them. So a lot of first-person shooter games, I don't think anyone's figured out how to show that in a way that's fun to watch because it's just nauseating, switching between different people's views, and the top-down doesn't really make sense. Whereas some fighting games or League of Legends is a lot easier because it's just a screen. There's multiple characters on the screen moving around. You can sort of see everything. Makes more sense. Yeah. Now, would you be interested in watching this, John?
Dan, no. I could not be any more opposite of you. And everything you said, I was literally feeling the exact opposite. Where it's I'm the opposite of you because I'm not a video game guy, but I like basketball. And for example, in terms of the range of games you can esports, I'm almost the complete opposite of you, where a League of Legends to me is too complicated, too confusing, and I don't understand it. The first-person shooter's kind of in the middle where, yeah, I agree it's not the best to watch, but I get it. You shoot the other guy. That I can handle and get the speed on. And then when you get down all the way to the sports game, for example, I had never watched that much esports, but for the Super Bowl on NFL Network, they actually broadcast the Madden Championship. Madden 2016, whatever the new version is. It was really entertaining because I knew what was going on. You throw the ball, you run the ball, 10 yards, touchdown, like rules I was very familiar with. And I think by tying the game to the NBA franchises, so the Golden State Warriors will have an NBA 2K team and the Boston Celtics will have an NBA 2K team. So you're bringing in a new audience of people who may not be primarily video game players. They understand the rules of the game. To me, I think a big miss is that they're not playing the actual NBA players. Like, you don't have Steph Curry and you don't have, Isaiah Thomas and you don't have, like, the actual NBA players. Okay, I guess you have to get around that. I like that it's the same players every week, so you learn your team and you learn who your players are. I think, would that work for a League of Legends type game? I don't know. But I think for a sports game, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I'm in on this. Like, I would absolutely give this a shot. I would totally try it. So
I think a difference between traditional sports and esports in scare quotes is the teams are a lot more fluid, but the people are pretty consistent. Mm-hmm. So from year to year, or even multiple times in the year, a player that you might really like just because of their like persona or the way they play might be on multiple different teams, and there's no real contracts, at least not in some of the games I've watched. So it's confusing at first because you're like, but wait, what happened to team whatever? And it's like, oh, team whatever doesn't exist anymore. 3 people from that team joined this team, and the other 2 people joined this other team. So at first it's confusing, but you do have, for the most part, consistent people. I would be interested, Sean, in watching one of these like less traditional ones with you, like a high caliber event where we commentate the like event, and I try to explain to you for like an hour what's going on.
Oh, we simulcasted, and you and I play color commentary, and you try to.
Absolutely.
I'm just the clueless moron who has no idea what's going on. That might be fun. It might just be painful to listen to, though, because I'm just gonna get frustrated.
I don't want to broadcast it. I'm just curious if I can convince you, if I can change your mind. That's what I'm curious
Honestly,
about.
I'm willing to give it. That's the other thing too that I think this deal has that other things don't is, if right now I wanted to go watch a League of Legends competition, I guess I would go to Twitch, but like I feel the barrier to entry with something like that is too high for a mainstream average individual, whereas I could see an ESPN2 or the NBA Network airing this, and it just happens to be on TV, and I flip to it, and they're playing basketball, so I know what they're doing, and I see it's the Warriors versus the Celtics, 2 teams I already know. Like I think they've just reduced the barrier to entry so staggeringly low. Like, that's something I would just casually watch, whereas something like League of Legends takes a lot of effort on my part. I feel anyway. I don't know. Colby's been silent because he's trying to figure out how he can get one of these salaried gigs playing video games all year. He's like, how long would it take me to learn how to play NBA 2K?
I'm not sure that I'm interested in that, frankly.
No. You gotta watch that RSI.
Yeah, right. So, as a person who, like, I say that I dislike basketball, but I'm not interested in basketball at all. Mm-hmm. And as a person who's also not, like, at least to this point, particularly interested in esports either, I don't know. Like,
it's okay to have no opinion.
As being completely ignorant of really both sides, it seems sort of silly to me to have esports of an actual sport where you could like watch the sport.
Yes, you raise a good point.
I hadn't thought of that.
That's the thing that I don't like. The thing I think is sort of interesting about esports is like you could have like anything, like there are infinite possibilities. But then this is like something that is grounded, like fully grounded in reality, to the point where you could switch the channel and watch like an actual basketball game. Maybe like the esports basketball game will be more fun to watch. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to watch one and see see what we think of it. But then again, on the other hand, like, I think you raised good points about like sort of watchability. Or Dan, I think Dan talked about this. Maybe like watchability of this. Like, we know basketball can be watched on TV because we do it all the time. And theoretically, within a game environment, the production could be even better. Like, you can certainly see things like you could never see, like on regular TV because it's just not possible. So that's kind of interesting. It's an interesting idea. It's not quite clear to me that it makes sense. But then again, like, maybe this fills the, like, I mean, I don't have this problem with basketball, but like with football, like the football season ends and there's no more football to watch. So like maybe watch like esports football instead. I don't know.
I think you're right, Colby. It's not a bad idea. It's just a boring idea.
Right. It's not like, I mean, maybe it is game changing, but it doesn't seem like, I don't know, totally crazy.
No. And I think you raised a really good point, which I think I've talked about before. Another fun thing about esports as compared to regular sports is the games can be different. Like football stadiums have to be exactly the same. Whereas video games, you can play on hundreds of different maps. Maybe you don't even know what the map is before the game starts. Yeah, so it's a good point. It kind of misses the point of esports to just say we're going to play a basketball video game. Because, yeah, you could watch real people play basketball, and that would probably be more dramatic. There's injuries that matter. But if you're going to play this game that can't even exist in the real world, then that's exciting because there's different kinds of strategies. It's more fluid. It's faster. You don't want to have, like, playing a basketball game that's a simulate. Like, what about all the downtime basketball and football? Just, like, get rid of it.
Yeah, but I mean, people do watch regular basketball, so I agree with you that I think there's an audience. You're right, Dan, that they tune into esports because it's something they can't get anywhere else. And that's why I like that people are trying different. Nobody knows the right way to do this because it's never been done. So I commend the NBA for trying. I do think somewhere there is an audience for this. So people who really like that. It's weird to me. I agree, Colby. I don't know why you would do it during the basketball season and why not do it during the off season. Like, that's weird to me. Because you're getting twice as much basketball all of a sudden?
Maybe it's a way to like get people into it, though. Like people who wouldn't be searching out that kind of thing, where it's like, hey, on after the game, or like on before the game, or like tune in on tomorrow at 4 for the e-basketball game. Yeah.
The e-basketball game. No, but I do agree, though, that I think the consistency does breed a certain fan base who relishes the consistency and says, I can tune in at any time, see my team playing, I know what I can expect, I know that, they might win, they might lose, depending on who they're playing, but the rules are always the same, the court's always the same. Again, I think it's just different audiences for different stuff. I just think it's interesting that the NBA's putting their own money up to do this, that these guys are salaried players, and that they're literally building a really organized, defined league. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There are rules, there are sponsors, it's not, you won't see a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, NBA has their hand in this, so, which is unique. So we'll have to wait and see, but it's not going to start till 2018, so you got a little while to wait at least.
Oh, well.
Keep your eyes peeled for that. I know
Darn.
you guys are big fans of the basketballs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. What else would you like to talk about? We've got unlimited plans. We've got Apple going wireless. We've got the rapidly changing legal environment of the internet. We've got Android Wear 2.0.
I feel like we might as well talk about that one.
Okay. I've got no problem with that. Colby picked out this really interesting. I post all the lame articles. Oh, look, Google's new watch is out. Oh, look at that. And Colby picks, think about this philosophical debate about freedom on the internet.
It's important.
Colby, you want to give it a shot at summarizing this?
Sure. I admittedly did not read the entire thing.
We appreciate your honesty.
So I'll take a shot at the summary though. Basically the premise of the article is that, well, I mean, I think this is true. Like the big internet companies that we all know and love, like the Googles and Facebooks of the world, have at least it's suggesting that some of their success is due to their relative like special status in legal stuff. So there was I guess it was in the 90s, there was this like law that was passed that basically protects like websites and like online services from I guess it absolves them of the liabilities for the most of the things that their users do on the site. So there are some notable exceptions, one of them being like child pornography. Companies have to like find and, like report that to the authorities. But YouTube, for example, like the other exception to that is copyrighted material. So that's why YouTube itself goes through and like finds things that may or may not infringe on copyright and gives you a warning or whatever. But beyond those special cases, for the most part, companies aren't responsible for things their users do. And so the article sort of posits that this is maybe coming to an end soon, or like things are changing now, given the sort of post-election discussion of like fake news. For probably years now, abuse on Twitter has been an ongoing discussion that they really like haven't done very much about at all. So that's I'm like not less interested in the article necessarily and more interested in like, it just sort of got me thinking, like, is that like, to what extent is that correct? Like, I don't think it's, I don't think the original thought process behind that like law is crazy. I think it sort of makes sense. Like, why, like, should Facebook be responsible for you posting a fake news article on Facebook? Like, I don't think it's obvious that they should necessarily. But I don't know. So I was interested to chat about that.
Well, and one thing excellent summary, Colby. You don't need me.
Thanks.
No, but one thing I'll add on top of that is that, increasingly we're seeing that law sort of stretched beyond the internet. Airbnb, for example, claiming that they're an internet company, so if Colby rents a house and trashes it, they're not responsible. They're just the internet middleman. Uber doing the same thing with a lot of regulations around drivers. They say they're not a taxi company, they're an internet company. And so the rules don't apply to them. And so I think you're right, Colby. Europe, the EU right now is pushing to regulate these bodies a little bit more. It's a little more voluntary at this point, not forcing anyone to do anything, but things like removing hate speech and things of that. That's kind of like one of the big ones that they're working on.
Right. Yeah, that was the other important thing in the article that I totally forgot about.
No problem. Some of us read it to the end, so just kidding. No, it's goddamn. I for some reason I hate when we talk about stories where I don't know the answer, because then I don't feel smart. This is just my brain. Because I don't the answer. There is no answer to this. There just isn't. For me, it's a spectrum, right? There's the one thing. I don't want to get all political here, but I feel like the one word our government needs to know, really the country needs to know, is moderation. It's just everything in moderation. Compromise really would be the B level of that word, right? Like, it shouldn't be everything or nothing. It can be some things, right? Like, it doesn't have to be complete freedom on the internet, but you also don't have to regulate it a lot. Like, it should, Airbnb be allowed to rent to people, and because they're the middleman, not necessarily be responsible? Sure, I guess I could see that, but, should they also stop repeat abusers on their network, and should they put safeguards in place to make sure it doesn't happen? Yeah, probably. I mean, it's all about this should Facebook read everything you write and approve it before you publish it? No, probably not. But should they have a system in place that allows you to flag inappropriate content? Yeah, I would think so. So it's where that line is the difficult part of this conversation for me, not whether or not there should be a line. Like, it should not be one or the other. There should not be complete freedom, and there should not be a complete lockdown. It's just, where do you draw that line? And it's an arbitrary line, and it is a very hard thing to decide. So there, I just solved it. So.
Yep. Done. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought about it a bunch before the show, I guess. And it seems like maybe one place that line could be is like, if the things that are happening, I guess so. I guess I didn't really think about it so much in the Airbnb and Uber case. I think that's maybe even more complicated because that crosses over into the real world. Not that things, other stuff on like Facebook or Twitter never crosses into the real world, right? You read the stories of like, what's a thing like doxing or whatever when like bad people like find out someone's like real life address and stuff and post it online. So theoretically, so they could be like, get beat up or something. I don't know why, but I think a reasonable place to draw the line is like, is this thing that the user is doing hurting someone? Then like, maybe we should deal with it. And then
corporations are people, though, Colby. So,
ugh. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems.
But
well, I guess the thing is like, these companies aren't going to do something about it because that's not how companies work. Like, companies serve like one singular purpose, and they with exceptions, but for the most part, like, they're trying to make more money however they can make more money. And so like, the reality is, if no one like, and when I say no one, if like the government doesn't step in at some point and say and draw the line somewhere, which they did with child pornography stuff, and they did with copyright notices. If they don't draw the line, like, the companies are going to continue to push and push and push until someone draws a line somewhere. So like, maybe.
But where are you seeing this line not being drawn? Because in the Airbnb and Uber case, these rules and regulations do exist.
Right. So I don't know. I think I'm less thinking about Airbnb and more thinking about something like Twitter, or like, like with fake stuff on Twitter, like abusive stuff on Twitter. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't really think there are like laws necessarily. Like, maybe some of that stuff would fall under other like more real life laws, but I'm sure it's like very unclear how those apply online, and obviously we know Twitter is not held responsible for that. So like, they have no legal reason to deal with this stuff. Obviously they get like pressure from users and people in the media and things, but like, legally they're not obliged to try and deal with this. And that sort of seems sort of broken. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think to one hand you're right, but I'm happy to sit here and make the sort of pro-Republican argument and look at the other side of this, which is, less government regulation, but hypothetically, in a more perfect world, I believe the free market could even handle this. I mean, when these things become such large problems, the reason you could argue that these companies want to block child pornography because it's bad for their business, and they want to block illegal content because it's bad for their business. And when Facebook gets a lot of bad press and starts losing users because of fake news, they have an incentive to do something about it. Same with Uber and Airbnb and all these companies. Twitter especially, who's hemorrhaging users. I can't imagine, that the issues they're having with content doesn't play some small role in that. So at what point do these companies have financial incentive and business incentive to do these things outside of any kind of law or government rule? That's what interests me in this case, is that as the market sort of changes, they're going to have to face this reality that people are fighting back about this total freedom on the internet thing. I think the market is asking for more boundaries.
But that's always going to be a lagging indicator of
Sure.
what should actually be done.
Oh,
That's
sure,
true.
absolutely. But, I'm again, that was my version of the answer to people who say there are too many government regulations. And I'm not going to fully disagree with them, but, it is a slippery slope when the government starts deciding what private companies should and shouldn't do. And I agree there's a place and a time for regulations, but especially when it comes to freedom of speech and it's a whole can of worms. I would rather the free market solve it themselves. But I agree with you, Dan. I don't think that's fast enough, and I don't think that always works the way it should.
Yeah, and I mean, I think when we talk about the government doing something like this, there's like always the possibility of like overreach, and there will always be like special interests that have some sort of stake in what's going on. Like with that, I forget what it's called, the DCA or something, CDA, the Communications Decency Act, that exempt or one of the exceptions is copyrighted data. Like there's an exemption on copyrighted things because of like the music industry and the film industry and stuff, because they didn't want their the stuff that they felt they own flying around online. So it would certainly be a complicated thing to tackle. Either making it, not too broad or just broad enough, a Goldilocks sort of situation.
Yeah.
You're in the Goldilocks zone.
Goldilocks zone.
Yeah,
Yes,
right,
that's right.
right.
Trademark. Yeah, I think I think you're right, and I did, Colby. I actually really did like your idea of when it crosses into the real world, because if I simply go on Twitter and call Colby some kind of terrible racial slur, like a cracker, right. I don't know. It's the worst, nicest thing I could say about Colby, and so is that illegal? Should that be taken down? Right? I mean, but I agree with you. I think that there is a point at which it becomes a problem. And I did like in this article, they talked about the EU, and one of the things that they're working on right now is a voluntary program where the EU is writing up a set of rules and regulations it believes companies should follow. But it's voluntary. They're not. It's certainly not law. They're just heavily encouraging companies to do it, and maybe one day it could become law. But I don't think that's the worst idea. I mean, certainly, I think. Again, if the free market asks for it, I don't think it would be bad for the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Googles of the world to get together and create a code of ethics for how they should operate their businesses. Let the industry define it before the government has a chance to overstep their boundaries, which, frankly,
Right.
I think more industries should do. But, okay, we'll focus on this one for the time being. But come out, have an open, of course this will never happen, but have an open, honest discussion with your customers and the American people, and find out what your customers want, and create a clear set of rules that you follow and that you publish publicly, and that you have systems in place to enforce them. And you do it voluntarily without being forced by the government on your own terms. An idealized situation for sure, but certainly not the worst idea.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it sounds great. Whether or not it'll happen, I don't know.
Now, here's my question on an infinite. So, if these companies get their way, like Uber and Airbnb to a lesser extent, but Facebook and Google especially, like they will be the ways that people do stuff. So there won't be taxis. There'll just be the self-driving Ubers. There won't be hotels. It'll just be like the gig economy. Then I think I think in that world then there has to be government regulation,
Sure.
right? Because that's the way it's done. So it's only a question in my mind of when, and I would argue we're already there, at least as far as my life is concerned. That's probably not true of everyone. I would welcome our new regulation overlords. No, but like for Uber and stuff, like and Airbnb, honestly, and if I get that feeling of safety via some product decision they make or the government, I don't really care. I have more faith that the government will do that than Airbnb, or that they'll initiate it.
Yeah, it's
Do you think this was
Go ahead.
the right decision at the time?
Oh, back in the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it made. I think that the questions were way less complicated in the 90s. Like,
it was all just
I
chat
don't know.
rooms. I mean,
right. And I'm sure a couple people had conceived of, something like Uber or something like Airbnb at the time, but at the time that was like science fiction. Like those things actually didn't exist. Which, like I don't think like the government is typically like particularly proactive. Like I feel like this was kind of a reactionary thing. And I think for the most part it did make sense at the time. And perhaps in many cases still makes sense. For stuff. Yeah, like for stuff that doesn't cross the screen. And I'm sure there's a lot of nuance to this because I think, some would argue that like being like harassed on Twitter every day, like that does, that like can have like like psychological effects on people, which certainly does cross the screen. But I guess in an unnuanced interpretation of that, I guess it made sense. But things have changed.
Well, name me a law that when it passed was perfect when it first passed and hasn't changed since it was passed. We're still fixing Social Security, and it's been around for a zillion years. So, that it does not surprise me that that this law has to change and be amended over time as technology changes and use cases change. I don't think fundamentally it was a bad premise on day one, but I agree that the internet is not what it used to be, and I think there's a reason. Well, see, now I'm going to sound so cheesy. There's a reason why the first that the First Amendment is the freedom of speech, because that's the most important one. Second one, of course, got to have your guns. No, but you get the idea that it is. I'm all for protecting the ability for companies to have some amount of freedom in how they operate, and just because the internet's different doesn't mean those rules don't apply to them. That being said, they are different, right? If I wanted to go to a newspaper and post a classified ad that Colby is a cracker, am I allowed to do that, right? What rules apply to them that don't apply to these internet companies? That's where you really have to figure out what are the differences and how does it work differently. For example, from this article in June, a judge decided that Yelp cannot challenge a court order that had asked them to remove a defamatory review of a lawyer by one of his clients. So basically the court said Yelp had to take down a bad review. I mean, at what point do these laws say, is a review protected speech? If I go on and say, Don't Panic is the worst show I've ever heard, it's absolutely terrible, and no one should ever listen to it, can we sue that person? Because we think the show is great.
You can try.
Well, but that's my question is apparently people are starting to succeed. So that's where these laws have to sort of change and evolve to fit the culture. Personally, I think there are such things as unnecessarily, dishonest reviews versus bad reviews. Mm-hmm. If this man was never actually a client of the lawyer, claimed he was, and he was lying, like, okay, maybe, that's another story. I don't know the full background of that, but
well, a funny story about that stuff. A friend of mine, she had a side business of helping companies fix their Yelp reviews. So she would go in and like go through all the reviews and do research on people and report those who were like spam accounts or unlikely to be patrons of the business, mm-hmm. and then like do these campaigns to get regular patrons to write positive reviews to drown out the bad ones.
Mm.
She made quite a bit of money off of that, which blew my mind. Like, you'd think that could Yelp be in that business? I mean, I guess that's
And
really
should Yelp be in that
terrible.
business? Well, the first
Should
part
it?
of the first part of fixing bad things, not necessarily paying people. By the way, I will say one of the most egregious things in life to me is people who ask and will pay you for, who like, oh, give us 5 stars on Yelp and we'll give you a free night at our hotel, or we'll give you a. Oh, I hate those people. I hate them so. Oh, I despise those.
I've never seen like a kickback.
Oh, I've seen it more than
I've
once.
seen it asked.
And that pisses me off,
Interesting.
especially when I went to that place because their Yelp was so good, and then I see that and I'm like, okay, hang on. That's very...
But were you disappointed?
I don't think... Maybe the places were average. I don't remember specifically. I don't think I was ever blatantly disappointed. But I did think a lot less of that place. I'm like, so your place... You must have such a bad Yelp thing, you have to bribe people. It's one thing to ask, be like, please rate us on Yelp, like, that's fine. But don't be like, if you give us 5 stars and show it to us, we will give you X. And I've seen that more than once, and that's, like, bullshit. I despise that.
At that point, it almost, like, I feel like it almost gets into, like, sort of, like, journalistic integrity things where, like, if you're writing a review of something, like, you should probably disclose, like, whether or not the company sent you a free one.
Well,
like
Amazon's fought this for a long time. A long time,
Right.
Amazon's fought this, and they're still not very good at it. But again, this is where all of these various freedom, quote-unquote, discussions come in. Like, is Yelp, should they be required as a business to disclose those things? Where the government keeps asking these companies for reports and say, hey, Yelp, how many of your reviews are fake, and how many, They keep trying to find out this kind of information. Where do you draw the line? Yelp is a private business. If they want to leave up fake reviews, they're entitled to do that. The free market would say they would then lose customers because their reviews are no longer good. They'd go to a competitor.
Right. Fascinating.
I think the best advice we can give is go read a newspaper. Just stay off the internet completely. Best
Right.
option you have. Write a letter.
Now, do you folks think that it's any different when you come into something like YouTube? Should YouTube be legally responsible if someone posts something that violates copyright?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Well,
Or similarly,
I mean, I think
if someone posts something on Facebook that is hate speech, Facebook shouldn't be liable for the fact that they did that.
Right. I don't think like YouTube should be liable for the speech, but I think they should be liable for like doing something about it. Much the way that they are with copyright, from my understandings. Like, they like serve the takedown notices and take down content, like given, a request from someone. I don't know how that would work for obviously, like, I think they could figure out some sort of like reasonable system for dealing with almost anything if they put their minds to it. But so does that make sense? Like, I don't think they're liable for what a person does on the site. I think they're liable for like dealing with things that are harmful.
no, that makes sense. I mean, for me, it just comes down to, it's really simple, right? Dan, if you made a copy of a DVD and handed it to Colby, that would be illegal, right?
Yeah.
If you do the same thing on the internet, I would think it should also be illegal. However, if you put up a billboard saying Colby Rabideau is a jerk, here's his address, is that illegal? As far as I know, it's not. So should it be illegal on the internet?
Maybe it should be illegal in real life.
A fair point, though. Honestly, then you start getting into First Amendment stuff, and that's a whole ball of wax. But I think that's a fair point. Like, where do you draw the line between reality and the internet? Because the internet gives you powers you don't have in reality. Dan's billboard is going to be seen by 1,000 people who drive by it. His internet post could be seen by millions, right? So it's a matter of scale. But I would argue the billboard company should have some level of responsibility, whether legally or just morally or ethically, to say, hey, Dan, that's kind of a shitty thing to do. We're not going to do that. I think Facebook should do the same thing. Or someone should
Yeah. Another thought experiment maybe. it say like so I'm gonna copy a DVD and give it to Dan, but he lives in New York and I live in Boston, so I'm gonna send it in the mail. Is the post office legally responsible for the copyrighted material that I transmitted?
You just
Yeah.
Although actually, I do
Right.
think isn't that an additional felony because you were transporting stolen goods across
Maybe.
state lines in the
Maybe.
mail?
Yeah,
But is the post office responsible? Could Universal Studios sue the post office?
Right.
I don't know, but that is a really good point. If you're transmitting, if they're enabling you to do that.
So some would say I feel like some would probably argue that the post office is similar to a web service from a certain point of view.
But then I'm gonna double down on your hypothetical, because I would argue that web services have a much easier time of detecting that sort of thing. I don't know how the U.S. mail would know that until someone told them or after the fact. So now we're talking about should we legalize the post office opening every piece of mail and looking for Colby's illegal copy DVD of La La Land or whatever he's watching,
Which is like basically what Facebook or Google can do. Like in reality, that is how it works. Basically, they can look. I say look. There's not a person looking through your stuff, but like the computers can look through all your posts and all the posts of every single person who has ever posted on Facebook.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's crazy. Things are different now.
Yeah, that is true.
That's a good way to put it. Things are different now.
Yeah.
There's a reason
I
why.
mean, the big difference is Facebook is now, and Google are massive multi-billion-dollar corporations. They're not just little startup websites run by 5 people, too.
Yep. Yep. When you have 2 billion daily active users, at some point you become like the post office. You become so big, the level of responsibility grows.
Right.
You can't slide by anymore. And I think this goes back to, was the original law a good idea? Well, maybe, but is it a good idea today? I don't know. It's a lot different now. No one back then, I think, could have ever guessed that 2 billion people every single day would be using a single website. So
That's true. That's a lot of people.
it's crazy when you think about it. And yet Facebook still sucks. Come on.
Wow.
The most
Shots
popular page in the history of the internet, and you can't suck a little less. I really do hate Facebook.
Isn't Google still more popular, though?
Google.com? I think it's about what, how they kind of manipulate the metrics, and they're like, well, we have more daily active users. Oh, well, we have more overall views, and we have. I don't know. They're both extremely large. I know that. Yeah. For sure. All right, guys, we're literally over an hour already, and we haven't even gotten a pick. So,
man,
let's bounce into that. Good discussion. I don't think we solved it, but certainly we got some people talking. If you'd like to give us your thoughts on this debate, where you stand, we'll even talk about it next week. You can do it in a couple ways. Of course, leave us a voicemail, 508-644-8324 at the phone number. You can also tweet us at Don't Panic Show or send us an email, don'tpanicshow@gmail.com. Let us know where you fall on this. Whose responsibility is it to keep the internet a safe and healthy place? Let's jump into picks here. I want Colby to go first, just because I want him to read the full name of his pick this week.
Do I have to read the whole thing?
The whole thing, top to bottom.
Okay. It's the Sateki aluminum multi-port adapter 4K HDMI (parentheses 30 hertz close parentheses) comma Type-C pass-through Ethernet SD/micro card reader and 3 USB 3.0 ports.
It just rolls off the
Now, I know, as someone who works on the e-commerce side, I know exactly why they did this. The keyword stuff their title with all the things you could possibly be looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Go on.
So in any case, I think we mentioned on the show before, my laptop was refreshed at work. So I have the controversial Touch Bar MacBook Pro, which has only 4 ports, and all of those ports, it has 5 ports. One of those ports is a headphone jack. The other 4 are USB-C ports. So all of the plugs that I owned before are now garbage. So I'm like dongle rich. I have 1 million dongles.
Dongle rich.
Yeah.
It's like being in a Target rich environment.
Yeah. So I couldn't do it. I didn't have enough. There weren't enough plugs in the 4 ports weren't enough to plug in all of my stuff and charge my laptop at the same time. I could have like my USB peripherals. I have 2 monitors. Neither of them is a Thunderbolt monitor, so I couldn't like daisy chain or anything like that. So those were 2 plugs, and then the last port. I had to choose. That was it. I had to choose between either using Ethernet at the office or using or being plugged in to charge. So I ended up getting this thing, and I can plug one of my monitors, and it has Ethernet built in and a bunch of extra USB ports. So it doesn't not work. And I've never tried the SD card reader because that was not what I got this for. It was just like the most things that I needed it to do in one thing of all the ones that I looked at. And the wire cutter had picked one of their other ones, like one of their smaller ones. It is a little expensive. It's like $80 for like, it's not very big. It won't satisfy you with its heft, but so far for me, it's done the job. So if that's a problem, if you also have a dongle problem, maybe it's something.
Call
you
your
should check
doctor.
out.
Yes,
Yeah.
no. Check it out. The link will be on our website. The Saatchi aluminum multi-port adapter, 4K HDMI, Type-C pass-through Ethernet SD microcard reader, and 3 USB 3.0 ports. We'll have the link on the website at don'tpanic.io. Check that out if you are too dongle rich to handle it. All right, cool. Thank you, Colby. I'm going to go next. You guys are probably familiar with the Humble Bundle, right? Which I've never purchased one of these, but apparently, and I didn't know this, they do this thing where they bundle a bunch of like games, or sometimes they do it with like books and stuff, and they bundle them together, and you pay what you want, and they give the money to charity, and you usually have a bunch of good games associated with it, usually through Steam, and you know me, I'm not Mr. Gamer. But I did see an article about the Humble Freedom Bundle, which is a new bundle that they just came out with to support causes like the ACLU and other like charities as well. And so for a minimum of $30, though you can pay what you want, they claim $600 worth of stuff, and I believe it. And one of the reasons I want to pick it on the show is because it contains a number of games we've already picked on the show, including Stardew Valley, which Dan picked not even that long ago, Invisible Ink, which Dan also picked. There's also the Stanley Parable, which yeah, you did. I double checked too. You picked it a while back.
Invisible Ink?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was you. Somebody picked it. It wasn't me.
Maybe it was a Colby.
Invisible Ink?
Colby
Sounds
picked,
like
I have to look it up.
Colby picked it in October 10th.
Ink as in incorporated.
Yes, INC, period.
Yeah, I did pick that.
He did. I'm not crazy. A little bit. The Stanley Parable, which I don't know if we've picked, but we've certainly discussed. Mini Metro, which I picked. And the list goes on and on. It's an utterly massive list of games, some of which I'm told are very good. So for me, I'm finally going to get in and try and play some video games. And for $30, I thought, hey, there's some books in here too. And
yeah, I was going to say there's a bunch of books. There's an audio book I just saw.
Yeah, you can
learn the R programming language, Sean.
Is that a good one? I don't.
If you want to do statistics, it's pretty good. Otherwise, it's not. It's pretty bad.
hard pass on that one. But you can check it out at humblebundle.com/freedom. I thought it was a good deal, and I'll report back if there's any good. I'll play the couple we've already, Stardew Valley and Invisible Incorporated, and give those a shot. And if there's any other new ones in here that are pretty good, I'll let you all know.
Nice.
So check that out.
Oh, The Witness is in there? That game seems cool.
Yeah, that's apparently the new
stuff
hotness.
like that.
Yeah. And that alone is like $40 if you buy it new. So
Right.
getting your money's worth out of it, and you're helping a good cause. All right, let's go to Dan. And Dan, I am as soon as I saw you pick this, I'm like, I know I picked this. And I searched the whole sheet.
You did?
No, apparently I didn't. It was my favorite thing of 2016, and how I didn't pick it is utterly baffling. It's so good, I bought it on Blu-ray. That's how much I enjoyed this. I have the physical copy.
You also buy music CDs, so...
I'm an old man. So, what are you picking for us, Dan?
So, apparently, this came out in 2016. It's a TV show. I guess it's just only ever going to be one season, although I'm not done with it yet, called The People vs. OJ, about the OJ Simpson case, which I wasn't really around for, so it's all sort of new to me. Something about a glove and a Bronco, like that was all I knew going into it. And it's on Netflix now. I'm not sure for how long. Currently it's on Netflix, so if you have a Netflix subscription, you can watch it. It's super good. Super interesting. It's got that sort of Maker Murderer, The Jinx sort of high quality crime drama vibe going for it. So if you're into that sort of thing and you have a Netflix account, check out People vs. OJ. Super good. Started watching it during our sleet storm on Saturday. It's great. Yeah.
I cannot speak highly enough about this miniseries. Favorite thing I watched 2016. The acting is so good.
Yeah. John Travolta is something else.
Yeah, and David Schwimmer as well is quite weird.
Yep.
But like Sarah Paulson and Courtney B. Vance as Johnny Cochran, I mean, they're so good. Oh my god. Yeah. And the other, who is the Sterling K. Brown as Chris Darden. Everyone is so good, and I cannot speak highly enough. So excellent pick, Dan.
Thank you.
A+. I approve. Not that matters. Your approval means nothing. All right. Hey, that's it. We're done. We're so far over, it's not even funny, but I'm glad we are because we had a fun time. We hope you did too. We appreciate all of you joining us here. Let's see. Let me do a couple of quick plugs. First of all, GameNights.tv, quickly, Dungeons & Dragons. We're chugging along. We just published Chapter 1 of our brand new adventure, The Legend of Shaker Heights, where I'm dungeon mastering, and these guys are in for the ride of their lives. Check it out there and follow along with the entire Shaker Heights adventure by subscribing at GameNightsTV/subscribe. When it comes to this show, Don'tPanic.io is our website. Every episode we've done, past, present, and future there, audio, video. The picks for every episode, it's a whole 9 yards. It's right there, our one-stop shop. Check it out. Of course, you can subscribe to the show, youtube.com/Don'tPanicShow for the video version. Get that when it goes out. And, of course, the audio on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, TuneIn Radio, most major podcasting apps. Really, anywhere podcasts are, we're there. And if we're not, let us know and we'll be there. And, of course, follow us at Don't Panic Show on Twitter and Facebook.com/Don't Panic Show. Because we post the episodes there, but also B, that's where we're live. Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. Right there. Lastly, the phone number, 508-644-TECH. That's 508-644-8324. Give it a call live or when we're not live and leave us a voicemail. We may play it next time. Gentlemen, this is it. Now, we are not going to be here next week.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
You two have decided to all of a sudden have a life just out of nowhere. Look at me. I'm Colby. Look at me. I'm Dan. I got stuff to do. So we'll be celebrating President's Day with aplomb. So we will not be here, but you can hold yourself over by listening to Game Nights in the meantime. And in 2 weeks, we will be back with all the tech news that you can handle. And as we get into March is Mobile World Congress, so we'll have a lot of new Samsung stuff. We'll have a lot of new phone announcements. So that's going to be, and I think Windows does some stuff in May. So things are going to really start to pick up here on the program. So you're going to want to stick around. On behalf of Colby and Dan, this is Sean, thanking all of you for joining us and hoping we'll see you next time for even more exciting tech news here on Don't Panic.